What are the components of flexible learning module? Why do I need to integrate contextualization and localization in developing the material? How do I internationalize the course material? Were you prompted by these questions? If you were, then this video is for you. Good day, e-learners! Welcome back to this channel. In my last video, we discussed on how to design the flexible learning materials. Different instructional design models were introduced, and we also differentiated distance learning materials and the textbooks. And not only that, we also learned the variables that we need to consider in designing these materials. Today, we will learn on how to develop your instructional materials. But first, we need to define what is course module. What is a course module? It is a learning material that is structured with the aim that students can learn independently without or with limited guidance from the instructor. Learners can go through the material at their own pace and at their own time. Course modules must be self-explanatory, self-contained, self-directional, self-evaluation, and self-learning. Now let us discuss on the components of course modules. First is writing the learning outcomes. Now go back to your course syllabus and look into the intended learning outcomes. Remember, do not proceed in writing the material unless you already developed your course syllabus. In my video lecture on how to develop course outcomes and intended learning outcomes, I explained the differences between learning objectives and learning outcomes. But if you missed to watch that video, then let me give you a simple definition between learning objectives and learning outcomes. A learning objective is the instructor's purpose for creating and teaching their course. In contrast, learning outcomes are the specific, measurable knowledge and skills that the learner will gain by taking the course. To illustrate further their differences, let us take these examples. Using the verbs transfer, create, and perform will direct or guide you on how to assess the learning of your students. Moreover, holistic or analytic rubrics will be used in assessing their performances. If you haven't started writing your learning outcomes, then click the links below on Taxonomy Circles and revised Bloom's Taxonomy action verbs as one of your references in writing your learning outcomes. Then after writing the learning outcomes, write the pre-test. Pre-test is the test taken before the content. It is well structured and is appropriate for students' learning. These are the examples of pre-test. After this section, add feedback. The next section is the content. Content comprises the vital information on the topics that are based on learning outcomes. Remember, content is organized and in accordance with the principles with unity, clarity, coherence, and emphasis. And it is also accurate, updated, and appropriate to the student's level. Before you include the concepts of the subtopics in your content, it is best to have graphic organizers to stimulate the student's interest. Now remember, the content of your material will depend on the learning outcomes. It is not that your learning outcomes are determined by your content. Do not identify first the content. When you have the topic or lesson already, identify first what are the individual learning outcomes you want your students to achieve at the end of the lesson. For example, if the topic is on digital instructional materials, your learning outcome may be develop computer-based instructional materials. In your content, you may have the following subtopics. What is technology-based material? Educational technology tools, sample online technology tools for teachers, free digital resources in the internet, and some links that would help. In writing the content, observe the following. Organize your material from simple to complex. Check grammar and mechanics. Cite sources using APA format and use transitional devices in connecting sections. For further readings on transitional devices, please check this link. Additional tips in writing the content. The content shall be clearly referenced so that the learner is able to check the sources of the information. Moreover, do not have wordy explanation and discussion. Replace the paragraphs with pictures and other illustrations or provide links for further readings and video tutorials. After writing the content, add these instructions. Next is develop the learning activities. Learning activities shall be congruent with the learning outcomes. They shall vary for every lesson and will utilize computer-generated communication. Be sure to have 2 or more learning activities in which the students can have option on what activity to perform according to the learning situation. In my last video, one of the variables that we need to consider is the context issues. So be sure to have an activity that will require computer literacy or activity that will not require gadgets, internet connection, and technological tools. The following outcomes-based learning activities are highly encouraged. After writing the learning activities, add instructions. The last section of the course module is the mastery test. Mastery test aims to evaluate the process of learning in a specific field of expertise. These can be in different forms, but performance-based mastery tests require rubrics, and these are highly encouraged. Every mastery test shall have catchy title and directions shall be clearly stated. And just like learning activities, be sure to have 2 or more mastery tests so that the students can have option on what assessments or performance they are going to perform according to the learning situation. After writing the mastery test, don't forget to add these instructions. 3 things that you can highlight in your materials are: integrate contextualization and localization, use gender-fair language, and internationalize your course material. Contextualization is the process of presenting a lesson in a meaningful and relevant context based on previous and real-life experiences, which is relevant and adaptive to the student's level of understanding and instructional needs. On the other hand, localization is a process of adapting and relating the content of the curriculum and process of teaching and learning to local condition, environment, and resources. According to Umili, teachers should not compromise the concept and content of the lesson just for the sake of making contextualized and localized version of it. Learning standards and competencies should always precede contextualization and localization. The use of gender-fair language in the development of content is encouraged. Avoid sexist language. Sexist language is a type of speech which discriminates against women by making them invisible and perpetuating notions of male supremacy. This is a language that suggests that one is superior than the other and hinder one's goal to have a non-discriminatory and inclusive community. What is the non-sexist word equivalent for this? The answer is letter carrier. These are some of the ways on how to use gender-fair language in writing your manuscript. You may also read this article titled Guide to Non-Sexist Language and Visuals at this link. These are the things to consider in order to internationalize your course material. Include an international perspective on the subject matter, use articles from international journals in the field, and use newspaper articles written by foreign writers, employ foreign films, television, and radio broadcasts, provide activities for the learners to analyze internationally collected data, and employ journal writing, other reflective writing on global topics and international cultural issues. A friendly reminder, e-learners, don't forget to append the user's evaluation form in your material so that you will have the basis on which part of the material needs revision, addition, or deletion. Remember, there's no perfect IM, but you can edit a bad page, not a blank page. So keep on writing. There you have it, e-learners. These are the things that I wanted to share with you on how to develop the flexible learning materials, specifically the course modules. I hope you learned something from this video. If you are new in this channel, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more e-learning. Happy e-learning! Till my next video!